What is going on, everyone? Welcome to episode 2 of the Playoff Podcast. I am your host, Pano, and I'm here again with Canes and the one, the only Stanley Stats. Say hello, gentlemen.
What's up?
I don't.
All right.
All right, so we are back with episode 2. Episode 1, we went over a lot of the lead up to the preseason, and we finally have all the teams done with their week 1 preseason games. So we're going to cover all the recaps and go over a few standout performances, stuff like that, as well as some other news that happened over the week. So we're going to start off talking about the Antonio Brown saga. And I have so many things that go through my head when I think about Antonio Brown now. But I'm going to pitch it off over to Canes and just what is going on with Antonio Brown, Canes?
I have no idea. I mean, if you want to talk about a diva wide receiver, he might take the cake of all divas because, good God, like he goes from Pittsburgh all the way to Oakland and still causing nothing but drama. I mean, the dude won't play with because of a helmet, a freaking helmet. Are you kidding me with that? Like I legit can go on and on about this, but I'll probably start saying stuff I don't want to say. But it's absurd. I mean, you're really not gonna go out there and play for your team over a helmet. Every other receiver in the NFL can play with the damn helmet, and you can't. Come on, man. That's it's just ridiculous, man. I really want to see what Stanley Stats thoughts are about this, though.
Yeah, I would say I'm right there with you on this one, and you touched on it as well. This is probably much larger than just a helmet issue with Antonio Brown because, uh, as we know from the past, Antonio Brown he is not going to be comfortable unless he has something to complain about, something to draw attention to himself about. And this is just, I mean, I could understand if his the history that he's provided us didn't kind of help make our minds up about how we feel about this situation. I might be able to understand if it was an isolated issue, but at the end of the day, I go both ways. Uh, if the player chooses to use this helmet, that's the helmet that he feels confident with or more comfortable with. Maybe through arbitration it would get worked out, and that's how it's going to get worked out anyway. But it's on him at that point. It's about rules. It's about safety now, which is progressing every year, trying to become a bigger thing. And which I do agree with that. But if he knowingly accepts the risk, perhaps let him use the helmet. But you don't want to open that issue up for other potential issues that are going to happen. So at the end of the day, if it's not a certified helmet, Antonio needs to find one that he's going to feel comfortable with. Because the one he's using now it's not even being produced anymore. So what do? That's another one of the issues. It's when this helmet gets damaged, just can't put on a piece of leather now. So Antonio, I think it's just about attention. It's about him wanting to complain. But at the end of the day, it's in arbitration. Let's see how how they find the case.
He's coming out and saying he's going to retire over not being able to wear a helmet. Do you actually think if they don't let him wear this helmet, he's actually going to go and retire?
Heck no. He ain't turned down all that money.
Yeah, I didn't even address that issue because I'm not going to. It does. I mean, it's he is, like Kane said, he's not going to retire. He's just this is another form of Antonio Brown getting his way. He's making demands. When you are essentially an employee of a company, you don't go to the boss's office and tell him how you're gonna structure your day. So it's not going to end well for Brown, I wouldn't imagine. And I certainly don't see him hanging the cleats up over this issue.
If he does, I would be shocked as well. I want him to just retire for like 3 weeks and come back. I think he would probably do something like that. Be like, oh, I don't want to play week 1. I'm going to, go home and put on my helmet and sit on my couch and watch my teammates play. Even though the Raiders, they could be okay. They have a decent team. Like Derek Carr, he's 50-50. He could be really good, could be terrible. But they have a lot of good young players. So I don't know why he doesn't want to come in and lead the team. It can't be about a helmet, man. It's got to be something deeper.
And if he did that, where he stepped away from the team, what kind of leadership does that show you to the young guys? Like, oh, I'm just gonna go and watch you guys bust your butts while I'm sitting here not playing because I can't get my helmet that I used to wear. Like, it's just that would be a complete mess in my
Well, it
opinion if
could be
that
with the whole
actually went down.
the frostbitten feet thing too. Like,
Oh yeah,
there's no way that he hasn't been using these whatever cryogenic chambers or whatever he used to recover or whatever. There's no way he hasn't been using these his whole career. There's obviously he did something on purpose, and he's trying to get either attention or he doesn't want to play. I don't know. I don't know if he's upset that he's on the Raiders. I really don't know. I
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, I mean, if he's trying to just create drama for himself, uh, I don't even think the helmet issue needs to be the one because he blew up. He was a social media superstar for all the wrong reasons with
yeah.
those feet. Um, and yeah, that's not really something that you use week in and week out probably, and all of a sudden this happens. It kind of coincides with what we have going on now, I think, which is what you're alluding to. There's probably something deeper there. He just doesn't want to. He doesn't want to go to work right now, and I'm
yeah,
sure
it
that's going
happens.
to come out.
It happens more often than you think. I don't know why these players just they show up and they don't want to go through training camp or the preseason. But I don't know. I used to like Antonio Brown. I think he's a really good player, but this is it's honestly out of hand at this point. And if he doesn't show up, I feel like I don't know, the Raiders could do something and let him go. I don't know. I could see it happening. We'll see though. Well,
Yeah.
we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Another player is holding out is Ezekiel Elliott. We'll touch on that before. We'll skip forward to that since we're talking about players not wanting to play. Any other news on the Ezekiel Elliott situation this week? I know he threatened to sit out the whole season, this whole season as well.
Yeah, I mean, I saw that. They signed Alfred Morris last week, so that might be trying to show Dallas's hand. There's like playing hardball with them, but we'll see. He seems to be sitting on that money talk. So I mean, I will see if anything ever gets
Yeah.
done.
I don't know. What do you think, Windex? Do you think Stanley? Do you think he's gonna come back?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's it is one of those things. I think everybody probably is looking a little bit too much into it because I mean it does happen frequently, and as Jerry Jones came out and said earlier, this is not something that you're going to be able to sit down and figure out and come to a consensus on, in a day. These are things that happens. It's a professional career. These guys have to make the decisions that's best for them, as well as the teams have to as well. So the organization has to keep that in mind. But it seems like everything's working well. I don't think there's any problems. There's coming out of camp, other individuals that have spoken with him. As he was training by himself, things like that. They say there's no hard feelings. It's simply business. So yeah, I think knowing that it's just simply a business issue, it's nothing personal. They'll get it worked out, and he's going to be an asset. So I see a deal
I'm
coming
leaning
together.
that way too. I think they'll get him signed before the season starts. At least that is my hope. A couple other big news, big type news. It's not huge news. We had two trades that happened this week. We'll start off with the Duke Johnson trade. What do you think, Canes?
Man, I love it. I mean, I'm a big Hurricane fan, so they got a University of Miami backfield back there. I like to call it running back U, but I'm sure other people have different opinions about that. But I think it's gonna help them. I mean, Duke Johnson's one of the best scat backs in the league. I mean, he can get you the yards you need, and he also can catch out of the backfield really well. And I think him and Lar Miller, with their speed, are definitely gonna be a nice complementary backs together. Jeez, I almost butchered that word, but yeah, I think they're gonna work well together, and I think it'll mesh well. I mean, they're already friends from the U days, so I think it's a good trade.
Yeah, I'll follow. Just agree with Gaines on that one. As he said, scat back, all good hands. So he's going to be able to be utilized in a variety of ways. So yeah.
Yeah,
That
I
was a
don't
good
think
look.
that they really paid too much either. It looks like they sent a fourth rounder over with them. I don't know. I don't think that Duke was going to play that much this season, honestly, with the emergence of Chubb in Cleveland. I think he was going to get the majority of the carries and the work. I don't know what they're going to do for a third down back, but we'll have to wait and see on that one. I think that was a. It's nice to see Duke Johnson get out, and hopefully he has a little bit bigger role with the Texans. And then we had another trade. The Vikings, my Vikings, they traded for a kicker. And being a Vikings fan for the last 20 odd years, the kicker is the most important position to the team because they always are terrible. Every single kicker the Vikings have had since Gary Anderson in 1998 has been absolutely terrible. And it's been a curse for about 20 years now. We traded for a kicker who I honestly think is going to be good. I hope he is. It's a guy who has an interesting story. Canes, do you want to elaborate on his story? If you know what Vedvik's story is?
I'll leave that one to you because you seem to
All right,
know
well,
a
he
bit more
was
info about it.
a kicker from Marshall who came out, and he honestly only kicked 1 year in college. He didn't play that well, but he came over, or he went to the Ravens and had a decent preseason. And then before the Ravens were going to trade him, before they could trade him, he got assaulted and left in the street unconscious one night after going out drinking in Baltimore. And I've never been to Baltimore, but from what I hear, it's not the most safe environment. So it's unfortunate that happened, and he honestly was out the whole year. I guess like his whole mouth got kicked in. I it's a pretty grisly idea to think about that. But yeah, Corey Vedvik, he comes from Norway, I believe. So I'm excited. You know, the Norway Viking connection. It should be good. I hope he plays well. I'm guessing we're gonna end up getting rid of Dan Bailey, but we're gonna have to wait and see on that.
Yeah, I heard talk.
Go ahead, Ken.
Oh yeah, okay. I was gonna say, yeah, I heard talk that you guys might use him as a punter and kicker. I'm not sure 100% if that's gonna happen, but there was some talk I heard after the trade happened, and I thought that might have posed a little risk because if you use him as both positions, if he happened to pull a muscle or if anything happens, trying to make a tackle on a kickoff, you guys might lose your punter and kicker for the same game. So I always thought that might be interesting, but Vikings have had history in the past about missing kicks. Blair Walsh, but yeah, I think it'll help them. I hope so. I would hope you would help.
Yeah, I'll follow on that. It's everything that Pano said to start. The guy's coming out of Norway. He grew up playing European football, so he's been kicking balls his whole life, and then did go, and perform in college, and that's, he is, as you were alluding to, he's someone who could be utilized as a kicker and a punter. So it'd be kind of exciting to see what situations they do use him in, and yeah, and just so thankful that he recovered from the injury, as Pano was saying, because it was a serious situation. I think he was found unconscious, laying on the ground, right, and but he had no recollection of what happened other than going out with the teammates, and next thing he knew, he woke up pretty badly injured. So just be thankful. He's got quite a story, coming from around the world, and had a lot of these issues, and here he is.
Yeah,
So
I'm hoping he does well.
How he does.
What do you guys think about the Bears? I believe the Bears and the Packers were also trying to trade for him, and we know what happened with the Bears last season. They missed a field goal to get knocked out of the playoffs. So I kind of feel bad for the Bears, but then again, I'm a Vikings fan, so I don't. But
yeah, I mean, yeah, the Bears. I mean, the surprising thing to me was Parkey last year was the one that missed, and he played for the Dolphins the year before, and I think only missed about 2 field goals the whole season, and then he just went to the Bears and completely fell apart. So the Bears really need to get a kicker. I'll tell you what. I mean, I think I heard they might have tried out like 10 kickers this offseason. They're down to 2 now, maybe. So we'll see how that situation ends up. But they were trying to trade for him, so I don't know if it's so settled down there.
it's never a good thing. to be trying out
Yeah,
10 kickers.
Yeah.
I think we did hit one in the game though, right? It's about a little over 40
Yeah,
yards, and the
that's
crowd went wild. So yeah, they're just happy to have anybody who's going to be able to put it
yeah.
through the uprights at this point. With consistency and especially in big game moments, that's you still have to shed a
It's
tear
going to
for
be
that one last year.
an interesting kind of story going on with the season because the Bears are actually a pretty good team. So if the kicker is a bugaboo with them, we'll see what happens with that. I don't like the Bears, so I hope they're not good. But moving on, we had a big injury. I wouldn't say big. I'd say an average-sized injury that is a talking point. We had Theo Riddick go down, the Broncos' new signing. He's out 6 to 8 weeks. And Theo Riddick's honestly a pretty good running back. Like, I think he's underrated, but it's kind of going back to my point from last week, which is should these kind of veteran players be playing that much in the preseason? He's out 6 to 8 weeks with a slight shoulder fracture. So, what do you think about Theo Riddick going down, Canes? Any news here, or is it just unfortunate?
I'm gonna go. It's just unfortunate, man, because he wasn't the starting running back. Philip Lindsay has firm control of that start spot. So, and they have I think what is it, Booker and Freeman behind them. So I don't think it's too big of a blow. I mean, he is a good player, but 6 to 8 weeks, I think they'll be able to survive without him for a little bit with Booker and Freeman in that backfield.
Yeah, that's I would agree with that point. It's one of those situations where they could afford to do those kind of things and let him get those additional reps in a preseason match because, as Kane said, you got Lindsey, Freeman, and Booker still right there in the lineup. So it's not as dangerous as it could have been. Had it happened to another team that maybe lacks that depth, and then coming right out of the gate, you're missing him. 6 to 8 weeks. But in this situation, it is one of those things you still have to gamble it. What are you gonna be willing to risk in the preseason matches? But I think as we talked about in the first podcast, it's that's your job. You got to go out there and get those reps. You can't just because you're seasoned or feel comfortable and the staff feels comfortable with you. You can't just sit out and just assume that production's still going to remain. So yeah, it's unfortunate, but. Hey, it's a game of football. Things happen.
It is unfortunate. Yeah, they had to test Theo Riddick out. He's a new player. You have to see what they can do. So I think that's just unfortunate, honestly. Most teams do a pretty good job of holding out the right players. So, I don't see any big news there. But there wasn't really too much other big news this week. So let's move on straight to the game recaps. We had all 32 teams in action this week. We'll start off with a real just barn burner of a game between two great teams that they're fantastic. We'll start off with the Buffalo Bills versus the Indianapolis Colts. The Bills take this one 24-16. Any big things coming out of this game that you guys see?
As far as I saw what I expected. They had, equal time of possession. However, if the Bills stayed free of fumbles, the Colts would have they would have been far more embarrassed than I think they already were. And the only other real news is what's going to happen with Luck. I think from what I'm hearing, the calf injury is at this point it's a day-to-day. He's feeling pretty good. It's just something he's got to work out, give it a little bit more time. So it's probably not going to hurt too much. But obviously, you had Jacoby Brissett come in behind him, and he's still doing what he does best, is throwing balls into the hands of the linemen. And so he didn't do too well. So I think that's really the only news out of that one that I saw. I don't know about Kane.
Yeah, you saw where Josh Allen played a little bit, and he just looked okay, looked average. I don't want to take too much in the preseason, but you got to see like Frank Gore. That was interesting to see. It looks like him and Yeldon are going to be battling for that backup job maybe. And other than that, you had you didn't get to see Luck. Wasn't too many other guys that stand out like Windex was saying. Stanley Stats was saying. And Yeah, I mean, you did get to see Jaquan Johnson though, who was from the University of Miami. He had 9 tackles, I believe, for Buffalo. I think he was their 5th round pick, so that maybe he could be a bright spot as a low draft pick there. But other than that, that's pretty much all I got
Yeah,
on that.
I didn't watch this game, but if I did, I would have fallen asleep about halfway through. These teams have nothing for me. I got nothing. I am not interested. I'm moving on. Jets Giants New York battle. This is what I'm talking about here, boys. Daniel Jones, the guy that both of you guys talked down. Both you guys talked down. Comes in for one drive, goes 5 for 5, 67 yards with a touchdown. What do you guys have to say about What do you guys have to say about this? I can't believe you. Hating Daniel Jones.
Well, I will admit he looked really good on that first drive. I was impressed. He had the I mean, he had great ball placement, and he stood in that pocket and delivered the ball where it needed to be. I mean, I was very impressed with him. Now it's only one drive, so I'm not gonna go on here and say, oh my God, he's next coming to
Well,
Tom Brady or something. But
you better
like
start
for
saying
Giants
that
fans,
because
and yeah, and as for the Jets, Darnold came in and he led a touchdown drive on his first drive. Now I did see that first drive. He should have thrown a pick on that first pass. It went through the defensive back's hands, but other than that, he looked good. He led him down on the first touchdown drive, and yeah, I was pretty impressed with Darnold there too.
Yeah, following up, I mean, like Kane said, first pass questionable, and not on Jones, but it's Tanny is going 14-19, 190 yards. He looks good. Laletta come in. What was he? 9-12 for over 100 yards as well. So that also leads me to believe. Let's not jump to conclusions on Jones yet. He looked really good, 100%, 67 yards as you stated. However, we had a couple of others come right behind him and do post the same realm of stats as far as and especially with them getting more reps in. So may have been more on the Jets, but yeah, at this point we can't really continue to talk down about Jones. I don't think
no,
we
you
talked down
did. You
Kane
better
tonight
start
last week
talking up.
anyway. Uh,
Yeah, I said I
yeah,
did say bust. I'll admit it, but
yeah. Well, yeah, 5 passes. The other 2 did well. So let's see if it was him or the teams. But yeah, overall, I mean, the Giants coming out 300 yards, almost 400, where they had 370. So they were looking good. Held the Jets considerably lower on their yards. Both have real, I mean, showing nothing on the run game really. But overall, yeah,
Yeah,
we'll go ahead and
these
give this one to
preseason
Pano.
games.
Highlight of the game. Jones did
These
well.
preseason games, they don't really tell that much other than the starting quarterback comes in, goes 5 for 5, 67 yards and a touchdown. That means he is the next coming of Joe Montana. He is the best quarterback to ever come out of a draft. Top 10 Giants. They're going 14-2. They're winning the Super Bowl this year.
Well, if you're talking about Super Bowl quality, I mean, Manning came out.
Yeah,
Didn't Manning light it up for?
Yeah,
He
was
3
100%.
yards. He was 100%
But
as well.
remember
So,
this: Eli Manning is a Super Bowl winning quarterback. So there was something there. There's something there.
making the
I've
connecting
been
the dots here.
I didn't. I'm just joking. I think Daniel Jones still might not be the greatest, but he played well, so I'm not gonna hate. But that was a pretty close game, at least 31-22. This next game, I don't even know what to say. Jacksonville, what's going on? What's going on down in that swampy mess that you live in? 29-0, the Baltimore Ravens over the Jacksonville Jaguars. Canes, you're from Florida. What's going on in the swamp?
Yeah, that's 0 points in preseason is not something you want to see. I know Foles and Fournette didn't play, but I mean, you want to see more from your backups. You just don't want to see a butt whooping because that's all it was an absolutely butt. It just was a butt whooping. Ravens dominated the whole game. Made them look silly pretty much. Lamar Jackson, what was he, 4 to 6, 59 yards, touchdown drive. That's something you want to see. He had people always want to question his accuracy, but see if he can get that down this second season. And yeah, other than that, Looks like all the Ravens backups did solid. Their backup quarterbacks looks like they didn't have to throw that much because they had such a big lead the whole game. They were 16-32, looks like. But yeah, Jacksonville. That's just. I'm sure they got reamed out a lot after that game. Put it that way.
Yeah, and I'll you said all that needs to be said about that game. All I can say is blowout city. I mean, Jacksonville posted their offensive production was lower than some of these second and third string quarterbacks getting out here for the first time, getting a feel for the NFL and throwing the ball. They've got more passing yards than Jacksonville had total. So there's not a lot to talk about in that one. It's I don't like picking on people, so I feel like anything I say would be picking on people as far as the Jacksonville Jaguars there. So I'll move on.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of picking on people, but so that's embarrassing, Jacksonville. If you don't come out, I know it's preseason, but scoring 0 points it's sad, and I feel bad for you. Not just because you live in a swamp, but just because you're bad. So we'll see what you come up with in week 2. Hopefully Nick Foles plays a little bit and he actually does something, but I doubt it. Let's go to the next game. Cleveland, Washington. We had another rookie QB play, Dwayne Haskins. And I remember I was the only one who said this guy is not good. And look where we are. 2 picks, 0 touchdowns. Thoughts, Canes?
Listen, I never said he was good. First of all, I said I think he might be a hit or miss. But I saw some of the game and he made some nice throws. I mean, it wasn't all bad. He made 2 bad mistakes. I will admit that. Obviously, those 2 picks are something you don't want to see. But overall, I see potential there. I don't think they should play him right away. I think he's a type of quarterback that needs to be groomed. But overall, I think he looks solid. I know the 2 picks don't look good, but like at the end of the day, I saw some nice throws and nice things. I think one time he escaped out the pocket and made a nice throw. So, people question his ability to make plays with his feet. So, we'll see. I think he had 2 carries, 17 yards. So he made some plays with his feet. That's his one big. That was one big question mark for him as well. So, but other than that, like you said, it's a preseason game. I know the Redskins. There is an underrated player on their team. People are raving about in their camp named Jimmy Moreland. I know he was a late round pick, but from what I'm hearing from around their camp, he's having a really nice training camp, and it continued in the preseason. He looked like he had 3 pass deflections and 6 tackles. So that's nice to see from a.
Let me guess, he's a Miami
pick,
Hurricane.
That's right. No, he's not a Miami Hurricane. He's under the radar prospect.
What do you think?
Yeah, following up I expected a little bit more out of Dwayne. But all things considered, as Kane said, he threw the ball well at least once. We know for a fact twice he didn't throw the ball well, but he did utilize his footwork, I think, and that showed. Picked up 17 yards over 2, but more about his awareness, I think is it's there, but it needs to be tweaked. But he also needs to be able to keep his eyes downfield and make good decisions and not sit back and think that's something he's going to have to do. He's feeling it out, but obviously he and Jones are not eating the same thing for breakfast. We can get that right now, but I think he's going to grow into something that is going to be an asset, or certainly has the potential to. Mayfield looked settled in. Garrett Gilbert looked like he came in and followed, and he had a pretty decent showing in my opinion as well. Only other news out of that one, I guess, is the Callaway. He had some problems as far as receptions as well. Targeted 7 times, but did pick up 3 for 42 yards. But I think the bigger news is, he's already on his 2nd strike now for the substance abuse policy. So they're going to have to work through that. He's going to be suspended for 4 games. So obviously starting off at a little bit more of a deficit there, but yeah, that's about all I saw.
Yeah, that definitely hurts. But Baker Mayfield played pretty well. He led a touchdown drive, which is nice to see. Pretty high on Baker Mayfield this year. He's looking good already. I believe wasn't there. This is the game where there was that punt return for a touchdown with the guy who slipped outside. I forgot the guy's name, but there was a guy who was sleeping outside a gym, and
Yeah, Damon.
he had a pretty nice punt return, and it's always cool to hear stories like that in the preseason of guys who are working their butts off, sleeping outside of gyms, and coming in and making plays.
Yeah, supposedly he had like a walk on. Or he had to try out and sleep outside, like you said, and the Browns offered him a deal. So he goes out
Yeah,
there and
they said it
returns
was
the
That's
punt
nice
return
to see.
touchdown.
It's always
That's right. If nothing else, that's just great for the organization and the fans. I mean, it's just like a little. Right now, it's preseason. It's not that exciting, but that's probably more motivation than any other team had. So I mean, that's gonna kind of synthesize everything there, and so now they're off on the right foot. Let's go.
That was exciting to see for sure. This next game was not exciting to see. I'll tell you that much. Detroit is just about as bad as Jacksonville in terms of their NFL team. The Patriots beat the Detroit Lions 31-3. I know that Matt Patricia is their coach now, and I know he's the former Patriots defensive coordinator, so I know there's a lot of familiarity, but what's going on, Canes? What's wrong with the Detroit Lions?
Well, for one, I believe they played a lot of backups. But so did the Patriots, so that's not really an excuse. But yeah, you don't want to see your backups getting whooped because at the end of the day, this is all depth. A lot of these players are gonna be playing. If injuries happen or even in just 2 deep situations where a starter needs to come out for rest. So you don't want to see this happen to your team in preseason because the Patriots were just all over them from the jump. There is a Patriot player I do want to point out is Jacoby Myers. From all what I'm hearing, he was dominating in training camp. And he goes out there and catches 6 catches, 69 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Tom Brady is raving about the kid. I believe he was from NC State. So they might got another gem on their hands there. I mean, typical Patriots go out there and find a guy that's really not a high prospect and goes and makes him a stud. So that's one name I would like to keep an eye on down the road. And their rookie quarterback Stidham looked like he played well as well. 14-24 touchdown. So that's always nice to see out of a young guy. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll follow up with that one. Don't have to say a lot about the Patriots because obviously, anytime you listen to the radio, podcast, read the newspaper, you're going to know all you need to know about the Patriots, and they are who they are for a reason. And as far as the Lions go, I'm right there with Canes. It's what we need to understand out of this showing is depth. It's not one of those things. It's kind of like people always say, oh, that's just the second string, or oh, that's just the third string guys. But it's just like when you have your spare key for the car. It's there for a reason. If you lose your main key, do you want a twisted up key that's not going to work? No, it's got to work. So your backup for every position, I mean, it needs to be a situation where they can come in and do their job. And if a 31-3 showing is what's going to happen, if you start having significant injuries, that's a sad start for the Lions and a sad ending.
I don't know how old your car is over there, Stanley Stats, but we're keyless entry these days, so I'm just gonna disregard everything you just said as boomer talk, as I like to say.
Here
but
we
yeah,
go.
that was an embarrassing showing for Detroit. So hopefully they come back in week 2 and actually do something. We'll see. Next game, the Atlanta Falcons falling to the Miami Dolphins. Let's start off with Stanley Stats because I don't want to listen to Canes about this. So let's start off with Stanley. What do you think about the Dolphins squeaking by the Atlanta Falcons, who were underhanded, short-manned?
Hey, it certainly it kind of inflated and made it more exciting, the Fitzpatrick versus Rosen battle now. I mean, Rosen looked well. Had obviously a bad pick, but overall front to back showed good composure, best he could. With a line that's still, I think, struggling. So in that aspect, I think that was okay, and I'm I know Canes is going to talk in depth about the Dolphins' performance. And I think from the Falcons side, it was nice to see Gage. I think is going to be a really good, going to be the slot guy, but he's going to be a good step in for Julio right now with the injury issue, which is not significant, but we have the looming contract issue as well. So I think that was one of the kind of the highlights for me as far as on the Dolphins' offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, I mean, I was looking at it, and I was watching. Yeah, Rosen looked better than what I thought he was going to look in his first game. I mean, I kid you not, their backup offensive line gave him no time on the first few drives. He was on his butt like 4 times in his first 2 drives. It was pretty bad. But the one standout to the Dolphins to me was Preston Williams. Man, I've been hearing about this kid since minicamp, and he's the undrafted free agent. He had, I believe, 96 catches and 1,300 yards and 14 touchdowns as a senior at Colorado State. But yeah, he came on and had 4 catches for 97 yards and looked everything what people have been talking about in camp. So I'm definitely interested to see him down the road. And as the Falcons, I believe they played their backups in their first drive. They took it down and scored on the Dolphins. So and I believe the Dolphins had a lot of starters on defense. So that's something you don't want to see. So that's good for the backups for the Falcons. But back on Rosen, he did make that one mistake. It was to Jermaine Grace, former U great linebacker. Let's throw that out there. But yeah. But other than that, I thought he looked better than what I thought for his first game in a new offense. And we'll see. The battle's on. I'll tell you that. Definitely gonna be interesting.
Well, I'm not even going to comment anything on this because Canes knows everything about everything in Miami, apparently, because that's all I ever hear about out of his mouth. So we're going to move on. Totally joking. All right. Philly versus the Tennessee Titans. We had the Titans take out a 27-10 win over this Philly team that I keep hearing them hyped up like they're the greatest team on earth. I don't know where that's really coming from because all I know is they have an overrated quarterback and not enough pieces on offense. But what do you think, Canes, about the Philadelphia Eagles? I know that you have a connection to them as well. It seems like you have a connection to every team that seems to be winning, but go ahead.
Oh, okay. When have the Dolphins won since Marino?
Who is this Marine Philly?
Anyways, yeah. No, but the Eagles, they played a lot of backups as well. Now, they did lose a big loss in Studfeld. Not so much big, but in the sense of backup, because Wentz does have the injury history, so that's going to be interesting down the road. But he broke his wrist; he's going to miss, I think, about 8 games. So they have to figure that out because I really don't think Kessler is the guy to be a backup. And other than that, they played a lot of backups. Goddard gets a lot of reps at tight end; he looked pretty good. Now for the Titans, this is what I'm interested in the Titans because Tannehill had a good game. And I know there's some rumblings in Tennessee fans, especially Tennessee fans, are not big fans of Mariota, and some of them want Tannehill to start. Now, that might just be because they're sick of Mariota or what, but Tannehill looked good and definitely put a little pressure, I believe, on Mariota. I would love to see what Stanley Stats have to say about that.
Yeah, no, I agree. Tannehill, really good numbers, 12-16, a little over 130 yards, a couple touchdowns. So he's really, showing his value and, could fight for that top spot. That's going to still be determined. Obviously, we're in week 1, and as we progress, we're going to see a little bit more production and see how that shakes out. And as far as the quarterback situation on the other side of the ball, I'm with you. Sudfeld goes down. But I think it was a non-throwing injury or a non-throwing arm injury on his wrist. And from everything I'm seeing, it's not going to be that much of an issue. However, it is one of those things where you look into the future and you're like, all right, Wentz is already, obviously injury prone or have had those issues. And, you want someone healthy to be in there with him. And, but obviously we'll see how it goes. Sudfeld might not be a brittle guy, but came away with a bit of a wrist injury. But I think he's going to be fine, and we'll just kind of see how it goes. And as for everything else, it's still week 1. We're not really seeing the squads out there yet, so That's really all I think we have to talk about on that one, or all I have to
Yeah,
talk about on that
I
one.
hope Tannehill does take the starting job. I think Miami wasted him. I think he is a lot more talented than he showed in Miami. I don't think Miami gave him enough pieces around him to really to shine. And I think the Titans actually do have a few good younger receivers. So we're gonna see what happens with that. Plus, he has the size of a NFL quarterback, which is always nice, as Stanley might say. So we'll see what happens moving on with the Tennessee Titans going forward in the preseason. Carolina, Chicago, 23-12 victory for the Carolina Panthers. I'm gonna be honest. I didn't really look too deep into this game, so I'm gonna pass this one off right away to Canes and see what he has to say.
Um, yeah, I mean, a lot of backups played. I believe both teams played majority backups, so there's not much you can really say. I mean, it was a close game for the most part. You got to see, I guess, Will Greer, see what he can do as a rookie there. And he is a rookie, right? Or yeah, he was drafted this year, right? Yeah. He went 9 to 16 to touchdown. That's threw a pick. It's his first game. He's see if he can be the backup there for a long time. I don't see him unseeing Cam Newton anytime soon. And then Chase Daniels does what Chase Daniels does in preseason. He always just looks decent. Been a career backup. Nothing more really. But other than that, I really don't got too much. I guess you know I don't really got too much to say about that game, to be honest.
Yeah, it's yeah, not a whole lot of highlights out of this one, to be honest. I did like seeing Brian Burns coming out of FSU. Uh, Big frame, 6'5", comes off the edge really well. So he was able to come in. I think he got 2 sacks. That's kind of good for Carolina to really increase some of their numbers or move up the scale with the defensive issues that they've been having. They can't continue to sit that far down in the league as far as defensive production. So he's going to be someone to watch. He's going to certainly get more reps throughout the rest of the preseason. So keep an eye on Brian Burns.
All right, I will keep my eye on everyone you talk about tonight, Mr. Stanley Stats. And if you're wrong about any of them, we're gonna have words. But moving on from that one, we have the Green Bay Packers edging out the Houston Texans. Surprisingly, Joe Webb played all of the quarterback snaps for the Texans, and I know him from the Minnesota days. He's an okay quarterback. He did have a couple picks this game, but I still like him. And the Packers have Deshaun Kaiser, the former Cleveland Brown, who actually played really well this game. I don't know if either of you guys watched any of this game, but any thoughts on how the Packers played or the Texans? Canes.
I didn't get a chance to see this one, but looks of it, looks like Kaiser played pretty well. So that's good to see from backup role. If Rodgers happened to go down, you want to see your backup play well. And Webb looks like he's got firm control of that backup gig because I didn't see, like you said, nobody else came in after him. So I'm pretty sure he's got the backup roles like settled down or set down. So other than that, I mean, you can't really talk much about the Houston and their running game because they played Lamar Miller and they picked up Duke, so they're going to be the 1 and 2 there. Dexter Williams looked good for the Green Bay Packers, so that's what I see. I know they've had problems in the past with their running backs not performing too great. I don't know if that's because Rodgers throws it so much or their line can't open up run blocks. But other than that, I don't got too much to say about the game. I don't know if you got anything to say, Stanley.
Yeah, no, I have nothing too much to add on this one. Nothing really unexpected coming out of it. A little bit of a fourth quarter breakdown for the Packers, but it's by the fourth quarter in the preseason, it's not going to be too telling about late game situations with your number ones out there. I guess the only thing is what Pano touched on. They let Webb go out and just try to dislocate his shoulder, so they were more than willing to give him all the reps he wanted with 40 attempts. So So yeah, that's
that
my
was
take.
at least it was a close game, kept it entertaining throughout the game. Moving on, the Arizona Cardinals and the Kyler Murray show started its role, edging out the LA Chargers 17-13. Let's kind of knock out these next few games a little quicker. Kyler Murray had 44 yards. Nothing too crazy. What do you think, Haynes, about the Cardinals Chargers match?
Yeah, I was impressed with Murray. You know, he stood firm in the pocket. Delivered some nice balls. Uh, other than that, can't really get too much from it. He only played like a drive or two, so can't take too much. And Tyrod Taylor is the backup there. He's just signed there in free agency. He looks pretty good for a backup. I think you're gonna get pretty much Tyrod his whole career, just solid average quarterback. And yeah, other than that, I do think David Johnson, if you're fantasy goers out there, I think he might get a lot of receptions this year. Put it that way in this new offense. But I'm gonna swing it over to stats.
Yeah, agree on that one. Just to move along, I mean, Kyler, we saw a bit of him. He looked good. 6 of 7, 44 yards. Great showing. On the other side of the ball, though, you did have, Easton Stick had a nice little 31-yard touchdown run. Uh, 7-11, 78 yards, did throw a pick. So it's kind of the little battle of the rookies. He got a little bit more production, so they could take a look at him than Kyler did for obvious reasons. But yeah, that's
Easton
what
Stick
I
is
saw
a
out of that
really
one.
good name. I don't know who named this guy, but I think I might actually change my last name to Stick. I'm just gonna my first name is Nick. I'll be Nick Stick. It'd be entertaining to kind of go through life with that. But moving on, yeah, that was just another preseason game, and Kyler didn't play a whole lot. So moving on, the Joe Flacco show. The Denver Broncos, where Joe Flacco barely played, lost to the Seattle Seahawks 22-14. Stanley, what's going on with your Denver Broncos?
Yeah, what's not going on? We just yeah, there's not a lot of positive you're going to take away from it. It was more exciting on the other side of the ball, I guess. It kind of saw what we expected, uh, but we did get to see some of the Paxton Lynch and Geno Smith battle it out on the other side. As Lynch had over 100 yards, had a rushing and a passing touchdown. Uh, so it's kind of one of those things that makes you laugh. Maybe Denver should have held on to it. And you know how I am. I love a good size quarterback. And he's 6'7", and he can move, and he can obviously throw. Um, but but yeah, after sitting out a full year of 2018, coming back, having a strong showing, battling for that number 2 spot, I thought that was exciting to see at least.
Yeah, you like to see a revenge game for sure. From a guy that was casted off by that team. But yeah, it was nice to see that. Drew Lock, his first game, or yeah, it's his second game, from the Hall of Fame game. Yeah, he looked pretty good in this one. He made a mistake here, but it happens. He's a rookie. He'll learn. He'll be groomed behind Flacco, who just did Flacco things, just solid. But Freeman might have separated himself in that one game as the backup running back behind Lindsey, because I believe Booker fumbled, so that might be something to keep an eye on, and broke a long run, 50 yarder. So other than
I
that,
want
I don't got
to
too much to
see
say.
like Stanley's man cave, where he just has like fat heads of quarterbacks, and they're all like arranged by size. So you have like the tallest QBs over on the left, and then they get shorter and shorter, and you get Kyler Murray on the end, and he probably just sits there and just stares at him. I could, I, I could honestly see that.
I can
Just
see
a
that. I'm
whole
not
row
lying.
of NFL quarterbacks organized by size. Honestly, that's
Yeah, and it's financially sound for me as well because I don't even buy the fathead if they're under 6'5". I don't
well,
see
that's
you as a
perfect
useful
then.
quarterback. So I save money.
All
Yeah.
right, well, moving on after that one, we had the Pittsburgh Steelers edging out the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 30-28. Real quick, any thoughts on this one, Canes?
Mason Rudolph looked good, and you want to see that. Winston didn't really play too much. He had one drive to leave and led him to a touchdown. Uh, Joshua Dobbs did okay. I mean, I guess there might be a battle for the backup running back. Looks like nobody really emerged out of there. the backup Connor. So other than that, I don't got really too much to say.
Yeah, I mean they're both kind of experiencing issues right now as well. Saw some obvious early our first week mistakes defensively, but overall, nothing glaring. Didn't do too bad, and we had, I think, both as far as their secondary giving up some big things. We had a 43-yard long from Washington with the Steelers, 59 from Holton. Those are not going to be able to happen, and they're both, when they are targeted, they're coming down the ball as well. But also happening on the other side of the ball. So I think it's just something that game helped both of the coordinators come together and say, hey, we got to clean things up defensively. Offensively, it is what it is. But defensively, you can't be giving up that many big plays.
Yeah, that was a high-scoring game for the preseason, that's for sure. Moving on, we had my Minnesota Vikings beat the New Orleans Saints. We did it. Kirk Cousins played pretty well. He went 4 for 4 on his one drive, 64 yards with a touchdown, a really nice pass to Thielen out on that right side. So they looked pretty well in the new Gary Kubiak era of their offense. The Saints looked okay as well. Any thoughts on this one? Canes.
Maybe just to see how Teddy Bridgewater performed. He looked good. Drew Brees is getting older there, so we'll see if they use him as the quarterback after him. Looks like Amir Abdullah had himself a game. See if he can have a breakout type, backup role in Minnesota maybe this year. Other than that, it looks like a lot of backups played, and you're not gonna get too much from that. Other than that,
Stanley.
Yeah, that's as you said, enjoyable to see Kirk. I think he looked good. Didn't see a lot out of him, but what we saw out of him was very good. So that's got to be something they enjoy moving forward. And I think also Madison was proving that he's going to be a good quality for the depth, and has good hands. Obviously, he had a goal line touchdown catch. That's a lot of pressure. Quick route, get ready, catch the ball. So that's good to have him coming out. He's going to be able to help Dalvin. So that's going to help the depth, as we said. And they're touring around, putting in some big bodies. We're seeing multiple tight end sets, utilizing some of the fullbacks. That was nice to see. And other than that, that's I guess you can talk about Teddy Bridgewater. He looked pretty good as well. From where he's been, where he's at, I think he's going to be able to be utilized as well, and improve. So yeah, those are my
I
only
always have a
takeaways
soft
from that
spot
one.
for Teddy. I think the Vikings did him a little dirty on his whole exit from there. So I hope he does well, even though I'm not a huge Saints guy, but I still enjoy myself some Teddy Bridgewater. Moving on, we have the explosive Kansas City Chiefs taking down the Cincinnati Bengals, the greatest team in the history of the world. But yeah, even when Mahomes doesn't really play too much, the Chiefs still look unstoppable on offense. What do you guys think on this one, Canes?
yeah, the Chiefs did Chiefs things, man. They just they popped off. 38 points. They're probably the best offense in the league. Patrick Mahomes did his thing. I believe McCole Hardman had a big run or catch. I believe it was like a little toss, and he broke it to the house. So that was nice to see. From the Bengals standpoint, Dalton played a little bit. He did solid. He moved the ball a little. Finley, I believe he's the NC out of NC State. He looked okay. He looked solid. Maybe one day he'll offseat Andy Dalton, because let's be real, that team's getting kind of stagnant with Andy Dalton running the show. Hasn't really gotten it done there. But other than that, I don't really got too much to say about this game.
All right, yeah, just touch back. I think Canes mentioned McCole Hardman, and I think the biggest story out of that is obviously, you already have Tyreek, you have Sammy. If they weren't enough of a problem, now you've got this kid coming in. So they're going to be able to, he has already shown he's got the makeup to be a serious, additional threat to someone, a core that's already quite a threat. and he's been performing well in camp. So yeah, McCole Hardman was nice to see, and as far as the Bengals, I think they lost that match between the ears. They gave up 11 or 12 penalties, over 100 yards, uh, 4 turnovers, 2 of those coming from muffed punts. If I mean, even even with being week one, if you're playing week one like that, you might get things together by week 7. You would think. So hopefully it was just a bad day for them. Maybe we're not gonna see that again. However, I think we could lean towards we will see that again probably next week. But yeah, they've got a lot of things they've got to clean up in a hurry if they're even gonna want to be willing to get on the bus to go to the games this year. I think, and that's my take.
That was a blowout, and I feel bad for the Bengals, or at least the fans. I don't feel bad for the Bengals because they're Tigers, and Tigers are pretty cool animals. So we're moving on. Raiders versus Rams. I'm not even going to field questions on this one. This game was ugly, and I don't even want to talk about it. It's a disgusting box score, and I'm not even touching it. We're moving on. Dallas, San Francisco. The last game of the week, we had the San Francisco 49ers take down the Cowboys without Ezekiel Elliott. Not like he would have played it anyways. But any thoughts on this one, Canes?
There wasn't too much to take from this game. I mean, I know Prescott had a drive and he did all right, and Garoppolo did get to play for San Francisco. So from the offensive standpoint, you really can't talk too much about that. From a defensive standpoint, I've been hearing Joe Jackson's been sticking out in camp, a 5th-round pick out of the University of Miami. I know you're probably going, oh god, another Miami guy. I heard he's actually really in camp, and Jerry Jones has actually single-handedly talked about him, pointed him out, and said how great of a job he's doing. So that's a player to look forward to down the line. Other than that, I don't got too much to say.
Yeah, not too much to see out of this one. I mean, we know now we got I guess the news coming out, Trent Taylor's he's not gonna get any reps through preseason due to the broken toe. So he's gonna be somebody needed in the wideout position, as well as the Cowboys. They are ready for the field goals. If this was a game where touchdowns didn't count and field goals did, the Cowboys would be tough competition. But they're simply going to need more than that. So the struggle with the touchdowns is still present. But Kellen Moore, we've got promoted. Let's see what happens. Give it the year and see what they pull together. But I don't think there's any glaring issues right now, other than the elephant in the room, which is Ezekiel Elliott. But we kind of capped that all. I mean, we topped that at the start of the podcast. So I think that's just going to be a business deal that works out. So yeah, everything's going to be fine. Nothing you can really dissect out of this match that's going to
nothing too huge out of that one. So that wraps up week 1 of the preseason. Some good games. We went over the rookie QB performances already, so we're going to skip straight on to the week 2 preseason games to watch. We're going to touch on these very quickly. It is the preseason after all, so just if you're looking for games that you might want to watch, you don't have a team you're rooting for, maybe check out Cardinals Raiders is my first game. Again, we'll see Kyler Murray back in action, and it's the Raiders. They're on Hard Knocks. They're a mess, if you want to put it lightly. Are you guys excited for that one, Canes? Anything with the Cardinals Raiders you're looking forward to?
Once again, Kyler Murray. Want to see how he can step up in the second game, and we didn't get to see Josh Jacobs. So I don't know, maybe he'll get to play next week. I'm looking forward to see him, be able to run the ball. And, Raiders, hopefully Derek Carr gets to play, see what he can do coming into his second season under Gruden. But yeah, other than that, I mean, not too much. Also, I do want to see how it goes down with the Antonio Brown situation. That'll be definitely interesting to see. But yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, same here. Antonio, that's going to dominate the headlines, but it's not. I'm not too excited to see off-field things right now, so I'm just going to let that play out as it will. But it'll be fun to see once again get Kyler behind center, and let's see what he does. See if he can continue on second week with the same short but
Yeah,
sweet
that'll
showing.
be a good one to watch. Coming up next, I have the Cowboys Rams, two teams that kind of put up stinkers in week one. Hopefully, they're forecasted to be two of the bigger powerhouse teams in the NFC this season. So I'd like to see them get on track. Anything in that one that you guys are looking forward to? Canes?
Um, Obviously the Zeke situation that you already touched on, to see if a running back can emerge out of that backfield that can step up. I mean, there wasn't really any in week one. As for the Rams, maybe Daniel or not Daniel, Jared Goff's debut. He didn't play in week one, so maybe see how that offense can click after coming off a pretty bad Super Bowl performance. Put up only 3 points. So other than that, don't got too much to say.
Yeah, on this one, I'm squarely looking at the Cowboys. I want to see a touchdown. I want to see you formulate a drive that ends in a touchdown, or a second half field goal. Improve on first week, but let's get the ball across for 6, and let's see how you're going to do that, because you're going to need to moving forward. So
Yeah, it'll be interesting
that's what
to
I'm
see if
looking
those
for.
teams pick it up for sure. Last, I have the Chiefs and Steelers. Honestly, the Chiefs are must-see TV in my eyes. Even when Mahomes isn't playing, their offense is just unstoppable, and it's really fun to watch. And the Steelers have been known the last few seasons to be a pretty good offensive team, so hopefully there's a lot of points in that one. Any extra points you want to talk about on that one, Chiefs Steelers?
Um, I want to see Tyreek Hill play. I mean, that's always fun to watch. He didn't play in week one, so maybe we'll get to see him in week two. Steelers standpoint, just to see how the offense, clicks with Antonio Brown and Big Ben, see if he can keep putting up those numbers.
Yeah, I think moving on to this match, after the Steelers did have those defensive stumbles, which in most cases to me weren't situations where it's just a fundamental breakdown, or they didn't know what they were supposed to be doing. It's just those pieces aren't quite snapped together yet to hold that defense in one piece, so they can work together. And if there's going to be a bigger test than the Kansas City Chiefs for that right now, I couldn't call it. So it's going to be fun to see, how they're going to come together in this week, work on some of those mistakes, because there's no room for error when you're playing the Chiefs, especially with the threats they have out there. So it'll be exciting to see, I think, from that standpoint. Let's see if the Chiefs keep doing what they did, and also let's see if the Steelers can kind of go into camp or this week and work on their mistakes and show us that they can get better moving forward throughout the season. So that's gonna be fun to watch.
That is the last game I had on the list of preseason games to watch. Of course, if you have a favorite team, you're gonna watch that over those. But it's always nice to have a few extra games you could watch each preseason week. So yeah, that is wrapping up the Playoff Podcast episode 2, going into week 2 of the preseason. Any final comments or anything you guys want to say before we wrap things up? I'll take that as a no. All right. Well, if you guys are enjoying the podcast, be sure to follow us on our social media. I will have links to that in the description if you're watching on YouTube. Otherwise, we are the Playoff Pod on Twitter and Instagram. We're going to start posting things on there as well once things happen. So we're going to do that. And yeah, next week we're going to cover week 2 of the preseason and any other big news, probably concerning Antonio Brown, because he obviously likes to be in the news as much as possible. So we'll see if anything big happens before week 2 comes to an end. So yeah, any last one-word things you guys want to say, or up to 5 words, or maybe even 10 words?
Preston Williams, remember the name.
That was
Be a
11
beast.
words.
Sorry.
No words from me. I'm just happy that anyone who listened did listen, and hope they're going to
we'll
listen
be
next
back
week
with our 3rd episode covering week 2 of the NFL preseason. I am ready for games to actually start counting. The preseason does start dragging after kind of week 4 is the most pointless week, other than people trying to make the team. So we're gonna keep chugging along through August, and we'll be ready for the season. So yeah, if you guys enjoyed listening, be sure to come back for next episode, and we'll see you in week 3 of the Playoff Podcast. Bye.